Behind Hollywood's lights, there are goodbyes no one ever heard. 13 stars who slipped away in their sleep. No scandal, no noise, just silence. Tonight, we enter their final nights, where fame stopped breathing and peace took its place.
Number 1. Sean Connery. On October 31, 2020, in his home in Nassau, Bahamas, Sean Connery fell asleep listening to music from his beloved Scotland. By dawn, he was gone. He was 90 years old. His family confirmed that the end was calm, painless, and peaceful. The man who had given the world its first James Bond had left quietly, just as he had lived his later years. For years, Connery had withdrawn from the public eye, spending his days near the sea, surrounded by turquoise waves and silence. His wife, Micheline, said he passed away in his sleep, smiling, free of pain. The night before, he had spoken softly of home and of gratitude. To millions, he was the embodiment of charm and strength, but to those close to him, he was a private man, loyal, simple, deeply human. He had lived by his own rules, far from the noise of fame. When his ashes were later scattered in Scotland, it was as if the story had come full circle. His final sleep was not a tragedy. It was the peaceful ending of a man who had already given everything. No applause, no spotlight, only the ocean and silence.
Number 2. Audrey Hepburn. On January 20th, 1993, the world woke to silence. In her home in Tolochenaz, Switzerland, Audrey Hepburn had passed away in her sleep. The candle on her bedside table had burned out just before dawn. After months of battling a rare form of abdominal cancer, she had returned home for Christmas, choosing to spend her last days surrounded by her sons, flowers, and the snow she loved. Visitors recalled her gratitude, her calm, her smile. Each evening, wrapped in a white shawl, she would sit by the window watching the snow fall. Those moments seemed to prepare her for what was coming, an ending that felt like grace. When her son found her, her face was serene, untouched by pain. Hollywood stood still. The woman who had defined elegance had left the stage in perfect stillness. Even in death, she was luminous. Her funeral was quiet, only family and close friends, the wind moving softly through the trees. Audrey Hepburn didn't leave with words, but with silence that spoke of beauty, dignity, and peace.
Number 3. Betty White. It was New Year's Eve, 2021. The world was celebrating, but inside her Los Angeles home, Betty White went to bed smiling. She had watched her favorite shows, laughed with her assistant, and talked about turning 100 in a few weeks. That morning, she never woke up. Her heart had stopped gently, without pain, without warning. The Golden Girl of television had slipped away in her sleep. For more than 80 years, Betty White had been part of American life, a symbol of humor, kindness, and joy. Behind her laughter was a woman who had seen it all, who believed that happiness came from small things: laughter, friendship, and love. When news of her passing spread, tributes poured in from everywhere. The president called her a cultural icon who brought smiles to millions. Her hometown declared a Betty White Day dedicated to kindness. Her end was like her life, quiet, warm, and full of light. Betty White didn't just make people laugh. She reminded the world that laughter could outlive time.
Number 4. Ray Liotta. On May 26, 2022, in the Caribbean night, Ray Liotta went to sleep in his hotel room in the Dominican Republic and never woke up. He was 67, working on a new film titled Dangerous Waters. His fiancée was with him. The actor who had brought raw power and humanity to the screen had died in peace, doing what he loved most. Liotta had been open about feeling reborn in recent years, grateful for new work, for love, for life. Those who saw him just days before said he looked happy, energized, full of hope. His death shocked Hollywood. For many, he would forever be the intense young man from Goodfellas. But behind that fire, there was kindness, humor, and heart. When the autopsy revealed he had died of natural causes, fans said it felt symbolic. His last sleep was quiet, but his life burned bright. Ray Liotta didn't fear the end. He lived until it found him, fiercely, fully, without regret. Number 5. Gregory Peck. At dawn on June 12, 2003, the city of Los Angeles fell silent. Gregory Peck had passed away peacefully in his sleep. He was 87. His wife, Veronique, said his final hours were calm, gentle, and free of pain. The morning light touched his face as if saying goodbye. For half a century, Gregory Peck had represented dignity and integrity on screen. To millions, he was Atticus Finch, the moral heart of To Kill a Mockingbird. Off-screen, he was the same, humble, thoughtful, devoted to his craft and his family. In his later years, he lived quietly, reading, gardening, and enjoying the company of old friends. When he died, tributes came from presidents, actors, and ordinary fans alike. The American Film Institute called him the conscience of cinema. His funeral was simple, private, and pure. Gregory Peck's life ended as it had been lived, with honor, grace, and humanity.
Number 6. Olivia de Havilland. On July 26, 2020, in her Paris apartment, Olivia de Havilland fell asleep and never woke again. She was 104 years old, the last queen of Hollywood's golden age. Her publicist said her passing was peaceful, without pain. She had lived more than 50 years in the same home, surrounded by books, music, and sunlight through the garden windows. Olivia had once played Melanie in Gone with the Wind, the gentle soul of that storm. But she was also a fighter. In 1943, she sued Warner Brothers for the right to choose her own work, and won, changing Hollywood forever. She called that victory a matter of principle, not pride. In her last years, she said that every day felt like a gift. When she died, the film world bowed its head. Her elegance had outlived her era. The curtain fell softly on a century of grace.
Number 7. Robert Mitchum. July 1, 1997. Santa Barbara. The Pacific sunrise crept through the window as Robert Mitchum took his last breath. He was 79. For months, he had battled lung cancer, but he never let it steal his spirit. He often joked, "When it's time, you go to sleep and the credits roll." That morning, that line came true. The world lost one of its last true movie men. The cool stranger with the cigarette and the tired soul. From The Night of the Hunter to Cape Fear, Mitchum embodied danger wrapped in silence. But off-screen, he was calm, witty, poetic. In his later years, he painted, read poetry, and watched the ocean. Friends said he was still sharp, still funny, still full of life. His death was quiet, just like his rebellion had been. Robert Mitchum didn't chase immortality. It found him in the stillness of the dawn.
Number 8. John Candy. March 4, 1994, Durango, Mexico. John Candy called his family that night and promised he would come home soon. It was late, and he was tired from filming Wagons East. The next morning, the crew found him still in bed, peaceful, as if dreaming. He was only 43. The world mourned one of its kindest comedians. From planes, trains, and automobiles to Uncle Buck, Candy had made millions laugh not with cruelty, but with heart. Behind the humor, he was gentle, generous, and full of love. He had struggled with health issues, often hiding concern behind a smile.
In his final days, he talked about slowing down, spending more time with his children. That night, he went to sleep thinking of them. Steve Martin called him a pure soul in a world that rarely rewards kindness. His laughter remains, soft, endless, unforgettable. Number 9. Bob Saget. January 9, 2022. Bob Saget had just finished a comedy show in Florida. He returned to his hotel room at the Ritz-Carlton, plugged in his phone, and went to bed. The next morning, he was found lifeless, lying peacefully. He was 65. Investigators found no struggle, no chaos, just stillness. Later, it was revealed he had accidentally hit his head before falling asleep, unaware of the injury. He died quietly, mid-dream. To millions, Bob Saget was the loving father from Full House. But beyond that, he was a complex artist, sharp, funny, deeply human. Offstage, he was known for his kindness, his mentorship, his heart. He had lost loved ones early in life and turned pain into humor. When he died, the world responded with love. Fans, friends, and co-stars filled the internet with memories. His final night had been filled with joy, a show, a smile, and peace. Number 10. Cameron Boyce. July 6, 2019, Los Angeles. Cameron Boyce went to sleep after a normal day, laughing, planning, dreaming. He was 20. In the early morning, his parents found him unresponsive. A sudden seizure had stopped his heart. The news shattered millions. Cameron had grown up on Disney Channel, a bright, joyful soul whose laughter was contagious. But beyond the fame, he was humble, generous, devoted to helping others. He raised money for clean water projects and used his platform to inspire change. His parents later created the Cameron Boyce Foundation to honor him. His death felt unbearably unfair, but his life remained a light for countless young people. He didn't leave the world in darkness, he simply took his brightness somewhere else. Number 11. Joan Fontaine. December 15, 2013. Carmel Highlands, California. Joan Fontaine was found in bed with a book beside her and a faint smile on her face. She was 96. The actress who once won an Oscar for Hitchcock's Suspicion had left the world quietly, as she had lived, elegant, private, and self-possessed. For decades, her rivalry with her sister Olivia de Havilland had fascinated Hollywood. In later years, she spoke of it with grace, saying, "Families, like films, need conflict to stay alive." In her final years, she surrounded herself with dogs, letters, and laughter. When she died, tributes called her the last breath of old Hollywood. She turned even her death into a scene, subtle, poised, unforgettable. Number 12. Doris Roberts. April 17, 2016. Los Angeles. Doris Roberts went to bed after dinner, smiling, tired but content. The next morning, she was gone, peaceful, without pain. She was 90. The world lost one of television's warmest hearts. For years, Doris had made audiences laugh as Marie Barone in Everybody Loves Raymond. Her humor had weight, her wit had tenderness. Off-screen, she was nurturing, outspoken, and deeply caring. She believed talent never ages, and spent her later years mentoring younger actors. "Love what you do," she said, "and never stop laughing." Her funeral was small but full of smiles, exactly as she would have wanted. Doris Roberts didn't fade away. She simply rested, surrounded by the laughter she had given the world. Number 13. Bela Lugosi. August 16, 1956. Los Angeles. Bela Lugosi was found by his wife, lying peacefully on his bed, wearing one of his famous Dracula capes. He was 73. The image was hauntingly poetic. The man who had brought Dracula to life had died dressed as the Count himself. Years of fading fame and fragile health had left him lonely but dignified. He still spoke with theatrical grace, still believed in the power of his art. That night, he complained of chest pain, but refused a doctor. "I just need rest," he said. Hours later, his heart stopped. When news spread, fans gathered outside his home, lighting candles in the dark. At his funeral, he was buried in his Dracula costume, just as he had wished. Bela Lugosi's death closed the curtain on a life of shadows and legends. Forgotten by the studios, remembered by eternity. His name remains eternal, haunting, immortal. In the silence of their final nights, 13 souls of Hollywood left behind something that never dies. Not fame, not glory, but the quiet proof that, even in darkness, beauty remains. The stars may fall asleep, but their light never fades. If this story touched you, leave a comment, share the video, and subscribe for more.